What happened to the Ben 10 cartoon? In this video, we're going to talk about how Ben 10 was born, how it became one of the biggest cartoons in the world, the process that led to its decline, and where it stands today. The fall of Ben 10 actually started with a decision made years ago. The reboot process, the shift in target audience, and how the series slowly lost its own viewers. Before we get into the story, a quick reminder. As huge Ben 10 fans, if you like this video and watch it to the end so the Ben 10 writers see it, they might realize just how much we want Ben 10 to return. If you're watching right now, taking a single second to hit the like button will help us reach this goal much more than you think. If you're ready, without further ado, let's jump into our story. Ben 10 wasn't just a random idea that popped into one person's head. Behind this project was a 4-person creative team known as Man of Action. This team knocked on Cartoon Network's door with a very clear pitch. Imagine a kid who wants to be a superhero, but his power comes from a watch on his wrist, not a cape. What emerged was actually very simple but incredibly brilliant. A 10-year-old boy, 10 different aliens, and in every episode, a new transformation, a new power, a new curiosity. Cartoon Network picked up this idea and aired the first episode on December 27, 2005. Nobody realized it that day, but what appeared on the screen wasn't just an ordinary cartoon, it was the beginning of a brand new adventure. To understand the rise of Ben 10, you need to know this. This series landed right in the middle of Cartoon Network's appetite for original productions in the mid-2000s. The channel no longer just wanted to rerun old cartoons. They were investing in long-running projects that would build their own universes. Ben 10 became one of the biggest moves of this exact era. One of the reasons Ben 10 was so beloved worldwide was this. The series appealed directly to children who were right in their growing phase. It wasn't too childish, nor was it too dark, meaning the kids watching could grow up alongside Ben. But right at this point, while everything was going perfectly, some seemingly minor decisions were made, and these decisions slowly changed the future of Ben 10. The first Ben 10 series, which started in 2005, is the era we now call Classic, and this era is the key to understanding why Ben 10 grew so massive. Classic Ben 10 established a simple but very powerful balance. On one hand, there was action and alien battles. On the other, the mistakes and reactions of a 10-year-old boy. Ben Tennyson wasn't a flawless hero. Sometimes he misused his power, sometimes he ran from responsibility, and sometimes he acted like a spoiled brat. But that is exactly why he connected with the audience. The biggest strength of the Classic era was the Omnitrix. Seeing a new alien and discovering a new power in every episode kept the series constantly alive. Is Forearm stronger or is XLR8 faster? For us, these questions started right after the episode ended. Another thing that made the Classic era strong was having a clear main villain like Vilgax. He wasn't a character who came and went like a villain of the week. He was menacing, serious, and he kept coming back. This gave the Ben 10 universe a sense of continuity. The audience knew this story was actually going somewhere. As the Classic series progressed, Ben 10 became more than just a show to watch. Toys, action figures, watches, and most importantly, a replicable idea. Not a cape, not a mask, but a watch. The idea of power strapped to a wrist resonated incredibly well with kids' imaginations. The Classic era laid the foundation for Ben 10's rise, and this foundation was so solid that it paved the way for the subsequent series. But as time went on, Ben Tennyson grew up too, and the audience was no longer faced with a 10-year-old boy, but a darker universe and bigger threats. Right at this point, the golden age of Ben 10 began. The foundation was laid with the Classic era, but what truly carried Ben 10 to its peak started with Alien Force. There was a very critical shift here. Ben wasn't 10 years old anymore. He had grown up, and the audience had grown up with him. Alien Force took the Ben 10 universe to a darker, more serious, and more story-driven place. It was no longer just the adventure of the week. Episodes were interconnected, and the threats felt larger. Instead of losing the old audience, this change actually tied them even closer to the series. In Alien Force, Ben was more responsible. He thought about the consequences of his power. When he made a mistake, he paid the price for it. This completely changed the tone of Ben 10. The audience wasn't just being entertained anymore, they were following a narrative. Vilgax was returning, alien threats were growing, and the universe was expanding. At this point, Ben 10 started to break the kids' show stigma. With Ultimate Alien, things went a step further. The Omnitrix didn't just provide transformations anymore, ultimate forms had arrived. This was an incredible move for kids. The same alien, but stronger, more aggressive, more ultimate. The power levels increased, the stakes got higher, and the storylines became much more intense. Quick reminder, before we continue, I worked really hard on this video, so if you want to thank me, and if you're enjoying the video, just hitting the like button is enough. Thanks in advance for your support. Now let's get back to the video. This era was when Ben 10 was at its absolute peak in terms of both popularity and impact. When people around the world think of Ben 10, this is exactly the era that comes to mind. Alien Force and Ultimate Alien were the most talked about Ben 10 eras on Cartoon Network worldwide. Ben 10 had transformed into a series followed not just by kids, but by a slightly older demographic as well. This kept it relevant for a much longer time, but within every golden age, there are minor issues. As the power increased, the universe expanded, and the story got more complex. Not everyone could keep up at the same pace. For Ben 10, these issues started to become much more apparent in the next series. The same question applies to everything that reaches the top. What do you do from here? The answer to this question changed the fate of Ben 10. After Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, expectations were incredibly high because Ben 10 was at its peak. And in 2012, Omniverse arrived. At first glance, everything was in place. New stories, new aliens, an expanding universe. But the first thing the audience noticed wasn't the story, it was the art style. This wasn't a problem for new viewers, but for the audience that grew up with Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, something had changed. Ben was still a hero and there were threats, but it didn't feel as heavy as it used to. The biggest problem with Omniverse was that it couldn't appeal to everyone at the same time. One portion of the audience loved it, found the universe expansive, and enjoyed the stories. The other portion stopped watching here, and this rift divided the Ben 10 audience for the first time. The real major shift in direction came in 2016. This time, Cartoon Network made a much clearer decision and said, "We're resetting everything." With the 2016 reboot, Ben reverted back to being 10 years old. The story was simplified and the tone became completely more comedic and fast-paced. This new Ben 10 was clearly targeting a new generation of kids. The reboot's intention wasn't bad. They wanted to capture a new generation and keep the brand alive, but a heavy price was paid here. This decision was a marketing move. For the older audience, the universe they had connected with was officially left behind. And at this point, we saw this. The problem wasn't that a reboot was made. The problem was completely severing its ties with the old audience. Ben 10 is still a well-known brand today, but it doesn't hold its former cultural power. It's more of a name that reminds people of their childhood from a certain era. Let's get to our main question. What happened to Ben 10? Actually, Ben 10 didn't disappear. The world changed, viewing habits changed, and we grew up. But once upon a time, we all had the exact same dream in our heads, a watch on our wrist and a dream where we said, "I wish the Omnitrix was real." The brand is still a powerful name, still recognized, and still a universe ripe for a comeback. Because Ben 10's true power isn't in its story, it's in the idea of the Omnitrix. And if that idea returns with the right tone, it can capture an entire era all over again. So yeah, I tried my best to explain the what happened to Ben 10 video you guys have been requesting so often in the comments. If I missed anything, skipped any parts, or made any mistakes, let's talk about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out my video where I rank the powers of the Omnitrixes in alternate Ben 10 universes by clicking the video on the screen. See you there.